So thank you very much for joining me, sir. How are you doing over there in my room? Not the room I'm in. Socially distanced, of course.
I'm doing good well this morning. How are you?
I'm great. Great. We are streaming live to the interwebs. You can go ahead and hit us up on our socials. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Instagram and Twitter is just at the WPG Magazine. Facebook.com/the WPG Magazine. Try to make it very easy. And then YouTube, it's WPG.news/YouTube. Very, very simple there. Want to make sure that you follow us on all those and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the little bell so you know when we go live and do all that kind of stuff. That'd be great. So let's look at the game stats right after we come back from a message from our sponsor. 1 second.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool Spa. Only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool Spa and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
Well, how are you there? So, thank you very much to our sponsor, Aquatech. We love that they're helping us out with that. That's absolutely wonderful. If you wanted to become an ad sponsor on the LZ Sports Show, you can hit us up, ads at thewpg.ca, and also you can give us a call, 431-489-2401. We would love to have a chat with you, especially if you're a local business. We are here, the WPG Magazine, to support local. So, right on. Let's get right to it, shall we? Shall we? We shall. Let's look at the stats pack. What do you think of these stats here, sir?
I love it. 41 shots from the Montreal Canadiens. That's probably the only thing that I think the coaching staff, of the Winnipeg Jets are going to be very unimpressed with. Well, as now I look at the face-off percentage, 53-47, that's 6%. I think they'll live with that in the 2-1 victory. But that 41 to 21 shots has really got to change, because that's a lot of offensive production that could have went, in a different way for the Montreal Canadiens. So goaltending definitely, it had to do a lot with that yesterday. And then as you see, the power play 1 for 3. I know the special teams are going to be impressed with that. And 0 for 2. The one thing that I've noticed with the Montreal Canadiens is this is like, it's an ongoing habit with them where Shea Weber, their captain, is the one where they succumb to power play goals from other teams. So, but no, it was a great game all around. And Mark, what do you have to say about it?
Well, I mean, when you look at those stats, 41 shots from the Montreal Canadiens, 2 days after they were only allowed 21 shots. So they obviously went to the drawing board and they're like, how can we have more success against these Jets? And the answer was obviously shoot more, apparently, get more pucks on net. So they doubled their shot output from one game to the next. And they also nearly doubled, well, not doubled, but they definitely amped up their hitting. You notice their hitting stat was a lot higher than last game. So those two things are what the Montreal Canadiens did to adjust after the 6-3 loss the other night. And then last night, they just came up short. They could not penetrate Connor Hellebuyck. 41 shots, 1 goal. And that 1 goal was even a weird one. Suzuki behind the goal line, off of Hellebuck's glove and in. Just an awkward goal. One that Hellebuyck would like to have back, holding that post. But, I mean, the defensive side of the Jets is definitely an area of concern. Giving up that many shots is never good. So that's sort of a big problem. But the positive there is that, to me, Hellebuyck looks strong. And if I have to pick a player from the Jets to highlight, it has to be Hellebuyck last night. Stood on his head, looked great, cleaned up some errors on the Jets defensive end. We always talk about how the two-pronged defense is, how does your defense play in front of the goalie and then the goalie himself. Last night, the goalie was left out on his own a little bit at points, but Hellebuyck came up strong. We've talked again about how he just has this laser focus. So I'm very impressed in his play. Who was a player for you that stood out last night?
I'm going to go with one of your personal favorites from Halifax, Mooseheads. Yesterday, I saw his team get going here. Don't get into a game. Don't get into an up and down game with this team. You're right, just trying to score goals. Let's play a defensive type of strategy. And I think Nikolai Ehlers was the one. And no, Nikolai Ehlers was definitely my guy. But I, definitely agree with you with the Connor Hellebuyck performance yesterday too. You cannot. This guy is just continuing to show why he got that award last year, and he looks like he wants to earn another one.
Absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm pumped to see the Jets. They play every single game. They bring something else because they're working on it in practice, and some stuff slides. But I just love that they're evolving as a team. And the one thing they really need to get away from is this getting caught 2 goals down and then having to play out of that position. And last night they didn't. They actually scored first, which was kind of a nice change of pace. Then, when they got scored on, they didn't let it get them down. They carried that right into the overtime. And of course, overtime 3-on-3, the Jets are a great team 3-on-3. The amount of speed that they have on their bench, the amount of passing chemistry they have on their bench, it showed itself in that overtime period, as brief as it was. And Nikolai Ehlers, I thought, was sort of the catalyst for all that in the overtimes, to speak to your point there. And I'm really glad that went down the way it did. So I would agree with you that Ehlers is deserving of a nod. And here's the problem. Montreal is on a slide.
Yes,
they
are.
In their last 10 games, they are 2-5-3, and they are really struggling to find ways to win. That's not a good stat. So
no, it's definitely worth a double facepalm there for sure. That unit in Montreal, I don't know, because they made so many big offseason moves, and especially bringing in Tyler Toffoli and Corey Perry, who have cup experience. And if it serves my memory correctly, that Corey Perry is a part of the Triple Gold Club. I think he has a World Championship, an Olympic gold medal, and a Lord Stanley. So, that's experience that you're bringing in there, and I don't think that, Montreal's going to be happy with this. When you were just saying 2-5-3, you said in their last 10. Like, that's completely unacceptable. And yesterday, actually, I was picked it up on the it was right before the game, actually, on Hockey Night in Canada feed, that Marc Ducharme doesn't want them to feel like they don't have to prove themselves to him, because he's he was there for so long. And I said, that makes a lot of sense already. So hopefully the players can just, I don't know, hopefully they can come out of this, right? Like, your 10 games is a big thing. That's why I said if the Jets can go 15-5 in the next 20, they're going to be one of the biggest talks in the league.
I am going to have to go ahead and agree with you. I think, Montreal, they've got all the pieces. We talk about on paper a lot, and on paper, Toronto Maple Leafs probably the best team in the league, and they're actually proving that. That pans out when you look at those statistics and you see the Toronto Maple Leafs in first overall, whether you look at it through the lens of how the NHL actually measures it, which is most points, or if you look at it through the more accurate way to look at it this year, which is through points percentage. Either way, Toronto is on top. They're first place, period. End of sentence. And
hands down.
And it's on the backs of some of these weaker Scotia North teams. Vancouver, for instance, Ottawa struggling hard this year. Those two teams are giving up a lot of points, and Toronto is more than happy to take them. But then they'll turn around and they'll beat Edmonton, who Edmonton right now in their last 10 games is 8-2-0. One of those losses coming last night at the hands of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's, when you look at on paper, the Montreal Canadiens, I think, should be better than they are. They were really good out of the gate. They played very well at the beginning of the season. But the last 10 games, 2-5-3 is not a great record for your last 10 games. And they're going to want to really figure out what is wrong. There's a reason that Claude Julien got let go. And there's a reason that Dom Ducharme is now in that seat. And the question now is Dom Ducharme already in trouble?
I think so. We discussed this. We shared a chuckle about it, but like the way things are, say that I did, and they were just like, oh, what is Mark Richmond doing to this team? And now I know that those two gentlemen are just going to be like, oh, okay, for sure they're going to pinpoint Mark Ducharme and put him under a microscope, right? I think he's already there. I really think especially against the Jets, because that's a good team. It was an opportunity for him to prove himself. And he didn't come out on the other side.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when one of the goalies touted as best in the league is having such a hard time right now. Carey Price's numbers are in the drain, and you can't really blame a lot of that on. You can blame some of it on the defense, but not all of it. Only 21 shots last night against
It's his hair. I'm blaming it on his hair. He looks like Marilyn Manson.
Okay, well, the hair theory again. Yes.
Yes.
So it's just unfortunate that they're in the scenario that they're in, which is chasing what they had at the beginning. It's harder as a team when you have a lot of success out of the gate and then you slump. It's really hard to get that out of your head because all you're thinking is, look at the success we had at the beginning. But that doesn't necessarily translate down the road. You have to evolve. Like we've talked about, the Winnipeg Jets are trying to do all the time. Yeah, they win the game last night, but then they adjust and they play a different game the next night. They don't just sit on their laurels because, well, we got away with that win. They look at what was wrong about their game and try and fix it. And the Montreal Canadiens, rather, they are struggling to figure out what their problem really is. So it's
yes,
tough
they are
right now. So what do you do if you're them? What do you do if you're Dom Ducharme stepping into a role where the slide was already on its way, and you walk into a very hot Winnipeg Jets arena in the Bell MTS place, and all of a sudden you're already down 0-2 as a head coach, and things are looking tough for you. So they're still looking for their first win under a brand new head coach, and things look really rough there in Montreal. So I don't know how they're going to get out of that situation.
I agree, and you said this. It's just like that's probably why they didn't give him the actual head coaching position. That's why the term interim is there right now, and that obviously shows that the management in the Montreal Canadiens organization is definitely looking to interview head coaches.
Yeah, I don't think Dom Ducharme is definitely an option that they want to look at as far as permanent head coaches go, but I don't know, man. It's a tough sell, and their schedule next month, for March is pretty packed, and it's going to be a real test. I'm not sure how long they want to go with this interim position before either making Ducharme their named guy or finding someone else. But I think this is an opportunity for Ducharme to really help turn an NHL franchise around the way that he did in the juniors and the way he's done it before. So again, I have a lot of faith in the guy, but I watched it happen. Juniors is not the same as the NHL, quite obviously. So that's a tough comparison to make, but he did a lot of really great things in Halifax when I lived there and had season tickets to see the Mooseheads play. And, like I said, I got to watch some really great players come out of that system through Dom Ducharme and the way that he coached them up. And I think some of those players are having really great NHL careers right now because of the way that he was coaching them. And I think that when you've got a team like Montreal that just needs someone to sort of steer the ship a little bit, he's a good guy. He's a good option to do that. And the French media like him there, so they're not on him yet. But the Montreal's media can be quite tough to deal with. Just ask Claude Julien, and there's a bunch of coaches that have been in and out of there, and players who have been in and out of there. Chasing English players out of the locker room and all that kind of stuff is a regular occurrence in Montreal. So it's a tough spot to play, and it's hard to put a team together that is going to be as good as they need to be to earn what Montreal expects. Their fans are still sticking to this whole 24 Stanley Cups thing, and you can't look at the past. It doesn't matter.
No.
Look at the players they had there versus who they have now. Carey Price is
Yes.
a goaltender you can build that on, absolutely, but then the rest of the team really needs to step up. So I don't know. It's tough to be in Montreal's shoes, but when you walk into a red hot Jets team, they're going to knock you down, and they did over those two games. And the unfortunate thing for Montreal is that they're back here twice again next week, at the end of next week, after the Jets finish up their little 4-game homestand against the Canucks. They head off to Montreal. So at least Montreal will get to play the Jets in their home arena for the next 2 meetings. So we'll see how that all pans out for them. But it's a rough go right now. So
it is. It really is.
Who for you is the hottest team in all of the NHL? We already talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who's the hottest team right now for you?
For me, after last night's W, I'm going to go with the Jets. When we talked about this, when the season started with our first couple shows, with the way things were going, okay, Toronto's definitely there, and Montreal seems so good. And now this slump, everything that we talked about, how the Jets had to, worry about this, worry about that, about when they went to play the Canucks, they handled business out there, no problem. Now we discussed about, what they need to do against Montreal, showed up, and then handled business last night. And then now here we are. The Jets are my team, and that's why I'm going to stand by them. I think that this 15-5 in their next 20 is something that's highly, highly accomplishable for them. And with the amount of individuals that they have to choose from their forwards to their defensemen, and like we said, our favorite thing, that they have a goaltending problem because they have 2 great goaltenders.
Yeah, absolutely. And luckily so does Montreal, in Jake Allen, a great backup. And he's probably the best backup that Montreal's had since Halak, to be honest. And
that's true.
I think that they need to lean less on the goaltending, but yeah, I love the Jets right now and the way they're sitting and those 2 hot goalies you mentioned and all of that. Let's look at the stats from last night's game, brought to us by Aquatech Pools, Bath and Spa here in Winnipeg. So, looking at last night's game, the stats there. The score sheet: Nikolai Ehlers with a goal and an assist. He is looking so strong right now. A lot of people are saying we need stars that are not going to give the puck away all the time, and Ehlers has done a lot of work on that front. He still does cause some giveaways he really shouldn't, and I think the coaching staff are working with him on that. But you can't argue with his point production. 2 points in last night's game, 21 shots over the course of those 3 and a bit periods, and they come away with 2 goals and the OT win. What's your takeaway when you look at this screen right now?
I just couldn't ask for anything better. How the last game, you said that it was about 12 skaters that hit the score sheet to have a scoring opportunity, and I know here you only see not all that, but you see the people who actually have stats. I just think that the Jets are playing like a team, right? And that's why they can't be stopped right now. And you see Stastny and Ehlers there, and they come, they click for this to happen, right? And then to get guys like Connor and Kopp involved, it couldn't be any better.
Yeah, I think when you see that line on the ice, it's trouble every time. And I love the line Ehlers, Stastny, Kopp, but I also love the line Ehlers, Stastny, Connor. So, I mean, who are you going to argue with? It doesn't matter really who's out there. I think that's looking good. But I love that 13-6-1 stat. When you see the record for the Jets right now, seeing them 21 games played, 13 wins, that's great when you're in that position. They're winning games when they need to win games. The unfortunate state of the 9-6-5, Montreal constantly losing games in overtime, as they did last night against the Jets, and they're picking points up here, there, and everywhere, but they're just not getting the same sort of success that you're seeing from teams like Winnipeg or again when we talk about Toronto. Tampa Bay for me is probably the hottest team in the NHL. I
forgot about them.
Yeah, man. They're another team where they've played enough games that they're not one of those teams that's hidden. They're out in front. They're in second place in the league, whether you look at it through the NHL's version of stats by just based on number of points gained. But they also have a very high points percentage, which also lands them in second place behind the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think that they are a team to watch. It's tough. I know we're in Canada, so the Scotia North Division, we don't actually see any of the teams from the States this year until the playoffs. And that's going to be really... It's just going to be such a crazy year, shortened season, only seeing Canadian teams that we normally don't get to see very often at all. And
no,
it's such a crazy wide open year. And I know it just keeps getting beaten to death we're beating a dead horse here, but every single game feels more like playoff hockey this way with these series we're seeing, playing two, three, 4 games at a time against the same squad, and playing teams that over, the last 10 years, we're playing them as many times this year as we have over 5 combined years sometimes, So when you see Toronto twice a year and you see Montreal twice a year, and this year you see them 9 and 10 times. So it's looking a lot more like very exciting hockey, and each game means more. So what's your takeaway there?
Each game does mean more because my favorite line, you don't have the American Thanksgiving mile marker right now to scale anything. You just have a shortened season and everybody's got to play hard and not worry about, there's no timeline here. You just got to play to get into playoffs, and just you got to win. And yes, a lot more is at stake. And you talked about this in our last show about now this is why the NHL should probably look at giving them 3 points, because it's only going to intensify even more next year, with a full season and having to sit out everything due to the coronavirus pandemic, and then now having to play another shortened season. So when the guys in the NHL are ready to skate for a full 82-game season and follow the regular schedule again, hopefully, right? Knock on wood, that they can do that. Hopefully that they can look at 3 points, because you explained it the first time. I didn't get it yesterday. You talked about it, and then now it's starting to click to me, and I hope some of the viewers and fans are going to see how important it is.
It just makes sense, when there's an OT loss, you're giving away 3 points, 2 to the winner, 1 to the person who loses in overtime. Why are we not giving a whole 3 points out every single game? There are 3 points up for grabs every game. And the goal is win all 3. And then winning in overtime is actually losing a point. So you want to win in regulation. There's going to be a lot more impetus on regulation wins, and rewarding a regulation win with more points than an overtime win, I think just makes sense. I think it'll make things a lot more competitive. And you'll see teams that sort of pull out ahead early with their, if they have 9 wins, that's 27 points right out of the gate. I get that that's going to change a lot of the record books and the way that people look at the stats, but I think it's a necessary step forward. We won the cup and we only had this many points and blah, 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 blah. Other than those sorts of things, there's no downside to awarding 3 points a game. It's not like one team is going to run away with everything, because overtime wins will count for 2 points instead of 3. So those games, I really think that'll add more parity to the game and more excitement for the fans, more excitement and urgency for the players that are playing the game, because if you're 3-3 and there's 30 seconds left, you want that goal, because that gives you a 3rd point rather than going to overtime and potentially losing 2 points by losing in overtime, and definitely losing 1 point by winning in overtime. I think it just all around is a better system to be using. But I'm just, Joe Blow from Winnipeg, Manitoba right now talking, and the NHL doesn't necessarily listen to people like us, but no. It is what it is. So looking forward on the Jets schedule, Vancouver twice, here at home for the Jets, and then off to Montreal for 2 games, and then they play 3 games in Toronto the week for basically they spend a whole week in Toronto playing 3 games there. So that's quite the schedule coming up for the Jets. I think they don't want to look at Vancouver as a warm-up series, because that's how you get burned. But what do you think of their schedule coming up? Do you think it's tough? Do you think it's going to be an easier schedule than we think, or what?
Okay, so you can. The one thing that I'm seeing now in this Canadian division, or actually the 2 things, is that they're all these teams are not half as bad as some people we or their teams might think they are when they lose, and then some teams aren't as good as we think they are when they win, right? Because anybody can beat anybody on any given night, and that's what I'm seeing in this Canadian division. Like you said yesterday, Ottawa lost yesterday 5-3 to Calgary.
6-3.
But they had a good game. It's just, the Jets cannot overlook any of these opponents. They can't take any of these opponents lightly. They shouldn't look as Vancouver as a warm-up, but what they should do is look as Vancouver as a team that, okay, we could go in here and let's get an early start and let's jump on these guys quickly and get our confidence going. And I think if they can take 2 games in Vancouver going into Montreal, especially this way, if they can beat Montreal 5 times in the past what, like 15 days, that's huge for the Winnipeg Jets. Huge. And Toronto will be a huge test. And I don't think that's what I mean. Like Toronto, oh yeah, big deal. They beat Edmonton. Edmonton's 8-2-0 in their last 10. When you were sharing that stat with me before we went live today, I was like, that is something that everybody is going to forget because of their loss to Toronto last night. Because it's Toronto. Yeah. So with the Jets going into Toronto, I think that, like I said, the Jets are the team that I'm going to back here. I'm not threatened by Toronto. The Toronto Maple Leafs should be worried about the Jets. Let's look at it that way. And that's not me being sarcastic. That's a real thing.
No, and I agree. Toronto is, they're playing a lot of really good hockey, and the thing is, when you beat Edmonton, that's impressive to me, because as you mentioned, we talked about it, 8-2-0 in their last 10 is Edmonton. So losing is a bigger deal, but they're a scary team, Toronto.
Very scary.
As much as I want to say, yeah, they have to watch out for the Jets need to be on their absolute A game when it comes to playing against the Leafs, especially where they're going into Toronto. And yeah, the fans aren't in the stands, so it's not quite the same. But playing in that building, the energy that Toronto gets out of that, just without the fans even, is a big deal. So they're just as excited to play each game as they would be if the stands were full like normal. It's not an easy place to play. The Jets, as hot as they are, that's this road trip that they're going to be taking towards the east here, 2 games in Montreal, yeah, and then 3 in Toronto. It's a big deal. So we'll see how they sort of come out of that at the end. I think Ottawa's a scary team right now. If you give them an opportunity, they're going to take it. They just can't make those opportunities happen for themselves, but they'll get there. Maybe not this year.
They'll get there.
Injury news: Pullman might be back Monday or Tuesday. How do you think that's going to shake things up if he is?
I hope he's back. They would probably want to like test him out right away if he gets a really good clearance from their medical staff. If it's like, okay, like he can play with this and maybe limit his minutes to maybe, I don't know, like just maybe like 4th liner, just to not to disrespect the guy, but just to see where he's at and see how that injury can partake and see how he's recovered. But I like seeing him out there on the ice. I like seeing the Logan, Niku, and him. Like they're really growing on me. The more we talk about it, the more we watch this team. You're getting to know more of these players now.
Yeah. Do you imagine that they'll sit Niku if Pullman's back? Like is that the logical step?
Oh, you got me thinking about it, and my gut's going with yeah. I think there's no other answer for that. I think that Sammy Niku will probably get sat if Tucker Pullman is back.
And no disrespect to Beaulieu, but you have to think like a lot of fans would rather see him sit than Niku. Obviously, the fans aren't the coach, and the coach makes the decision. But is that? Do you think that that's an option that Maurice will look at, sitting Beaulieu instead of Niku, having Niku play?
No, because Beaulieu is a real grinder, and he's a tough guy, and he doesn't take anything from anybody, and he really sticks up for himself. He sticks up for his teammates, and he really sticks up for the entire team. I feel that ever since that he came into this team, he's one of those, like, he's really sold out, and he always has this, like, assertive look on his face that you just know it's just like, okay, don't mess with us right now.
Fair. Well, there you go. That's it. That's what we got going on for our show today. So thank you very much. Special thanks again to our sponsor, Aquatech Pool Spa and Bath. We really appreciate them. They've been awesome to us. So I don't know what else to say. Follow us on all the socials, as we said before, the social medias. And also, if you're watching and you want to call in, we'd love to hear from you. Call the WPG Sports Line, 431-800-4555. Leave us a message. We will air those messages on future episodes of the show. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for those that are watching live, and good luck, guys. I hope that went well. So the comment came at the beginning of the show, said good luck, guys. So hopefully that all went swimmingly. here's hoping. And we'll see you next time on the LZ Sports Show. Have a great day, everybody.